Our black women, we care about our crown. Why not give back to the community and let us get the products? Let us get the tools, any other eviction.
Chopper video that we got hours earlier. Now, the sheriff's office did confirm deputies were carrying out an eviction, but that's all they would tell us. Now, what you're seeing here is piles of merchandise filling the parking lot, surrounded by law enforcement. County records tell us the Beauty Mart owner was evicted over $15,000 of back rent. Now, this is what we saw when we got on scene: wigs, eyelashes, jewelry, and beauty supplies. And again, tons and tons of people. Now, when we arrived, people were continually asking why they couldn't take any of the stuff. Now,
Welcome everyone. My name is Sean, and what you just saw was a clip that was posted to X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, by this account called Barrington, which apparently is of a former congressional candidate, with the caption, "The most embarrassing subsection of any race." And it purports to depict a bunch of lower class black people really angry that they're not allowed to take all of this property that was in the parking lot. They surrounded the police over it, and they're very upset, and obviously this is supposed to imply that these people are stealing this property or wanting to steal this property. And you look at this, you look at the caption, and you think, wow, what a bunch of low-class criminals, what a bunch of scumbags. This is absolutely embarrassing, and it's just not a good look for Black America, and the state of Georgia really did a solid job preventing them from looting all of this stuff. But the thing is, this is why it's important to fact check. This is why it's important to look into the details, because when you dive into the case, when you look at the context that was cut out of this specific clip in order to sell you a specific narrative, what you end up finding out is that this is a story of average, everyday, lower class black citizens being 100% correct on the law, and the state of Georgia having a police department waste taxpayer money in order to prevent these people from doing something that was perfectly lawful. And by the way, they went far beyond just guarding this stuff. They ended up bringing in prison labor in order to remove it, and I'm going to explain to you in great detail why that is completely unnecessary. But before we get into that, thank you to everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
So in the local news, you see that a lot of people in this particular area were upset that they couldn't take any of this property. They couldn't get any of this stuff. And they cut to people who, again, based on the clips that you are being shown, are not great representations of the argument that they want to put forward. I'm going to play a little bit of that for you because under different circumstances, this would be trashy people acting in a trashy way. But then I'm going to explain to you why the state of Georgia just wasted a bunch of tax dollars for no reason, and the outcome of this is significantly worse than had they just let them take the stuff.
Now, with law enforcement throwing yellow tape around that pile while also loading items onto their trucks, here's how people out here describe the scene.
We like free stuff, so we came out here to get all this free stuff, but then the car saying you can't get the free stuff because the people want to take it. And how y'all gonna take some stuff that ain't even yours? It's for real.
So here you have this woman who is incredibly loud. She sounds incredibly non-intelligent. She's saying, hey, we like free stuff. We want free stuff. How are you just gonna bring the people to come and take it when it's free? And then they cut to another guy who brought multiple baskets in order to secure himself some of this property.
So I got my 2 baskets. I took the bus or whatever, we get down here to get some free stuff.
We're already in a recession. Times are hard. Why not just let us get the items and invest and be okay?
Now look, I will admit that none of these people being interviewed in this specific subsection of this specific local news segment come off as particularly intelligent. They definitely speak with a lower class cadence, and for a lot of people, that would be a good grounds to dismiss them right away. In fact, we often see this from the mainstream left-wing media whenever we're referring to lower class whites. But what if I told you that the state of Georgia, their laws are completely on the side of each and every one of these individuals? That despite the fact that they're speaking with a lower class dialect, they're actually 100% correct on the law, and the police acted completely out of bounds. And considering their tax dollars go to fund the police, they essentially acted in such a way to deprive them of something that was lawfully theirs.
A massive crowd converged on a shopping plaza in Clayton County earlier today. Hundreds showed up to a beauty supply store that deputies had just evicted, hoping to get some free merchandise.
Instead, law enforcement swarmed the area and put an end to that.
So the key context that is missing for those of you out there in the audience is that this took place in the state of Georgia, and the beauty store in question that had all of their property in the parking lot was actually just evicted by the landlord because they owed $15,000 in backed rent to said landlord. Now, the reason why this is absolutely crucial, those two things, that this was an eviction and it took place in the state of Georgia, is because under Georgia eviction law, once you go through the process and you've been evicted and the landlord has to remove your property from said location, it's fair game. It's like trash on the curb, open to the public to take, and in no way, shape, or form did it make sense for law enforcement to block people from taking this property that they had every legal right to take. And the results of this, by the way, are absolutely disastrous when you think about waste and whether or not it was better off in the other direction.
I did. That's exactly right. Good evening to you both. We'll show you what he said in just a moment. But the people I spoke with said they didn't come down here to steal anything. They thought this mountain of merchandise sitting in front of this beauty store behind me was fair game. And then, as time went on, hundreds of people showed up.
So right here, you have this local news reporter who was on the ground in the moment. Again, this is from the local news segment that will be linked in its full context in the description of this video. And he says that he talked to a bunch of different people, and they said quite clearly that they didn't come down to steal anything. And in fact, even though the people were upset, there was actually no physical altercations of any kind with law enforcement, despite the fact that under Georgia law, they had every right to take this merchandise, despite the fact that the police were acting improperly and wasting taxpayer dollars while doing so. And again, where this property ended up should be bothersome to everybody out there in the audience.
First it was calm, and then I guess everybody made a phone call and it got a little out of control, a little like Freaknik 96.
Soon after, Clayton County deputies evicted this beauty supply store off Terra Boulevard, dumping their inventory in the parking lot. A lot of people showed up, hoping to snatch up some free stuff.
Wigs, braided hair, makeup, lashes, earrings.
So again, these people came out not to steal stuff. Yes, they're going for wigs and eyelashes and all this stuff that is very stereotypical, but 3 different police departments ended up coming out to guard this property, and then they ended up bringing in prison labor, again, all taxpayer funded, to haul the stuff away.
Instead, Clayton County Police, Sheriff's deputies, and Riverdale Police created a perimeter around the merch. Then they brought in dump trucks and vans carrying incarcerated workers to clean it all up.
When citizens are evicted, things are up for grabs. So we was assuming that the things were up for grabs.
Now, this woman right here says that when an individual is evicted from their property and their property is put out by the landlord, it is up for grabs for anybody to pick it up, a la when you put trash on the curb, it is open to the public, anyone can take it. So she felt like the same rules would apply in this particular scenario. And by the way, according to the law, the same exact rules apply to this specific scenario.
And a lot of people we spoke with say that was their impression showing up here too.
And as somebody who is in the beauty industry, it definitely would have been helpful.
Kids could use the supplies for hair, it's book bags in there, it's shoes in there, because the hair store sells all kind of things.
So you heard a woman right there who says that, you know, the beauty supplies are obviously something that they would enjoy, but they cut to another woman who says, hey, look, they got book bags and shoes and all these different things that they could grab for their kids. It's in good condition. It's brand new property. It has not been sold to anyone. It's not secondhand, and it makes no sense for the police to be blocking them off. And again, I 100% agree with her now that I know the context of this situation, the context of Georgia law, and what exactly happened to all of this different property.
Georgia law says once a judge issues what's called a writ of possession in eviction cases, deputies can go in and toss out the tenant's belongings. Once it's in the street, those belongings are generally considered abandoned.
People get evicted on the street. They're not like this. They don't make sure people's stuff don't get touched when we get evicted.
Fox 5's I-Team found a judge granted a writ of possession to the store's landlord 2 weeks ago, which deputies served this past Friday.
Again, obviously, these people, in the way that they speak, come off as lower class black people. But the question I want to ask you is, are they wrong just because they don't talk the way that you specifically would talk? Or are they right on the facts? And is it a good use of taxpayer dollars for them to prevent them from taking this property, especially when you consider all the labor that they put into guarding it and shipping it out?
So I asked Sheriff Levon Allen why he doesn't consider this property abandoned. And they could do a lot of good with it versus it just going to sit in a dump somewhere. Whose property is it now?
Now, I'm assuming you guys couldn't hear that because it was subtitled, but they asked the sheriff what the hell is going on, and he says the property is not his to decide where it goes. It actually belongs to the owner in this situation, and it is very unclear if he is referring to the landlord in this particular story or the beauty supply store. Which person does he think that the property belongs to? Now, under law, it is absolutely clear that once this property is put out, it actually is considered abandoned property. They had 2 weeks to remove their stuff, and Georgia is not a state that specifically lets the landlords hold the property in order to do an auction in order to recoup the losses from the unpaid rent.
And if you couldn't hear too well at the end, it was a little difficult to listen to. Sheriff Allen said essentially that this was the store's property. But meanwhile, these people here really, they had a different understanding of this all. And again, our reading of the state law was that this was essentially abandoned property.
If this was the case, if this was something that was going on, that the landlord could take over this store and end up selling all the different merchandise in order to recoup rent, then I would not be on the side of the public. But what actually happened in this story is all of that property, all of that merchandise that was perfectly fine, that under law should have been free to take by each and every one of these citizens, was hauled to a landfill.
Where did they put all of this stuff? I want to show you a video that Lovejoy Police posted a little while ago. They say these are these products in the landfill. They say all of those items are being destroyed, telling people not to show up at that landfill, adding they will be monitoring the area.
Yeah, that's right. All of this property, every single piece of merchandise right here that the police were supposedly guarding from these rabid animal citizens who were just trying to steal it, that was supposedly being protected for the owner, whether that be the landlord or the person who owns the store that was getting evicted, ended up in the dumpster. Thousands upon thousands of taxpayer dollars, man hours, and prison labor was used just to move this stuff to the landfill, to the trash, just to throw it out. And then they said they're going to spend additional funds in order to guard this property in said landfill. This is why you always have to fact check stuff on Twitter. This is why you always have to look beyond your personal biases and actually examine what's going on, because you have bad accounts like this individual who will post this, the most incendiary parts of it, and then they'll tell you, wow, look at these trash black people, look at how horrible they are stealing, when in reality, in actuality, this is a story of a waste of public resources based on property that they never intended on taking, they never intended on protecting, that the owner had abandoned, that the landlord didn't want. And the result of this is, yes, the hair products, the weaves, the eyelashes, the makeup, all of that's in the trash, but also the shoes, the actual backpacks, the clothing items, the things that could have been donated to charity or something like that, just end up being tossed out. And for what? What's the point of this? It's absolutely maddening to me that I get so much crap for talking about black crime on this channel, for talking about it in a genuine and honest way. I get called a racist all the time. I get death threats. But in reality, each and every one of those crime stories I look into with the same level of fervor that I looked into this case. And when the evidence aligns with black people doing something wrong, I tell you straight up that that individual, that person who committed the crime, did something wrong. When a community acts poorly, I call it out and I sign my name to it. I risk all of the backlash for doing so. But what I don't do is pander. And this post right here is pandering to all the different people that just want to mock the lower class blacks. All the different people that just want to jump to conclusions. All the people who don't care about reality, who don't care about the consequences of criminality, who don't care about conserving government resources, taxpayer dollars, and again, just want a cheap laugh in order to move on. And by the way, I ended up tweeting this person the correction, and rather than actually acknowledge that this video was either completely edited out of context or that he was too damn lazy to check it for himself, he said, oh, I posted an article in the reply that if somebody clicks and they read and they go through it, maybe, just maybe, they'll get that additional context that you're talking about. That's the strategy of these hucksters online. They post a video clip that's insanely incendiary, that's meant to go viral, and then they say, oh, in the reply, in the comment that nobody's going to actually read, read, I'll post an article that clarifies the situation. That's not the way that I operate. If you edit a video in such a way, or you post a video in such a way where the prime context is edited out, that's deceptive. That's clickbait nonsense. And yeah, while I probably will title this video something incendiary in order to draw your attention, the point of that is for me to lure you in so you can get the whole story right here. And by the way, I actually tracked down the original news story based on this, where of course they do tell you that all of this stuff was thrown out in the dumpster. They bring up another eviction situation where the people took all the stuff without incident, and I noticed that this Barrington clown decided that he was going to edit the interviews out of order so that they looked worse, and of course hack off the fact that the alternative to these people being allowed to take this stuff, which is perfectly legal under Georgia law, was it being thrown in a landfill.
We are black women. We care about our crown. Why not give back to the community and let us get the products? Let us get the tools. Any other eviction.
Now, later on, we saw trucks and trailers show up to haul off that merchandise. The Clayton County Sheriff's Office, they tell us that those items, they were destroyed, dumped at a landfill, and unable to be collected.
Again, you should never trust anybody who thinks that their audience is too stupid and too lazy to fact check. I mean, this absolute clown, this Barrington guy, this absolute huckster, decided to call me a white knight because you know, everyone out there in the audience, what I'm doing on this channel is always covering up for the legitimate crimes of black Americans. You guys know that I made video after video when it was unpopular to do so about how Michael Brown was guilty because I just wanted to cover up the crimes of black criminals. Absolutely not. Ridiculous and absurd. And it just goes to show you how people who are lazy can just prosper online. They get all the likes, all the Twitter bucks, all the retweets, and in reality, they don't even bother to check if it's factual. They don't even care about the truth. They just care about their own pocketbook. Well, that's not how we roll over here. If you're down with that, if that's what you like, then like this video. You guys can subscribe for more content. You can follow me on all my social medias. You could support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the absolute nonsense that gets posted on Twitter for money and how deceptive it can be. Till next time.